Here's Run the Jewels in conversation with Rick Rubin. Killer Mike turns up a little bit late, so LP and Rick got to talking first. And because LP was freshly stoned, the conversation starts in an unexpected place. What LP would do during the apocalypse.
So just a moment ago, you were theorizing on if there was an apocalypse.
Yeah. I always like worry about like my post-apocalyptic career. You know, like what do I have to offer a post-apocalyptic society? And I don't know if it's much. It's certainly not like brute strength. You know, like maybe I could. You know, and I don't. You know, I'd probably be just some sort of like subjugated gesture. You know, like Princess Leia chained to Jabba the Hutt. You know, like, but maybe hopefully without a bikini on, and.
Just
and I'm
entertaining
like,
the survivors.
Yeah, just entertaining for food. You know what I mean? Like, just entertaining for your life. And then I'm like, well, but then again, but I'm not really a musician. You know, like I make music, but like, you know, I didn't follow through with the piano lessons. I didn't follow through with the trumpet lessons and the saxophone lessons. All of that shit, I tried it. You know, my father was a jazz piano player. He was cool. That was what he did. Cool. And I tried, but I was like, I remember standing in front of the mirror with a saxophone and trying to play along to like Run-DMC jams. And I was just like, I looked at myself one day and I was just like, I can't do this. I have to put this down. Like this is ridiculous. I look stupid. And I just can't feel cool doing this. Like I need to learn how to make that. I need to learn how to make this music. Like I can't, like I'm not going to make it with a saxophone, you know?
Are your first memories of music your dad playing?
For sure.
So would he play in the house all the time?
Yeah, we had we lived in the West Village until my parents split up. So I was there till about 6, and it was in the 70s, and it was parties, and you know, like 70s parents didn't give a shit. They didn't give a fuck, and I kind of wish it was like that again. But like, they would have crazy parties, you know, probably fucking doing cocaine and definitely drinking and smoking weed and crazy, you know, just rambunctious parties. And people like Robert Crumb would show up to the parties and shit. And I was just a little kid, and my father had a piano and a little drum set, grand piano and a drum set, and a huge record collection. And he would have me sit down and play drums with him while he played piano for the guests.
Amazing.
He's a born entertainer, you know. It was, and so it was that, which was really interesting because I started to identify it as a phenomenon later, where I was like, oh, I get it. Like from a very early age, I had music in my life as something that you participate in, not just something that you witness, you know, because of my father and because there was a drum set and because I would sit on his lap and play piano with him. It was something that you just did, you know. It wasn't like some like mysterious thing that just happened. It was something that I felt comfortable with immediately, you know, because it was just like, didn't feel embarrassing or weird or like a stretch to try and make music. Eventually, when I started to try and make music, it felt like a natural extension of what you're supposed to do when you have that in your life.
So cool, so lucky to have that.
It was, and the other thing that I learned from him, which is really something that I take seriously and think about all the time, was that he, you know, I grew up watching him play in restaurants and bars, you know, places where people didn't give a shit that he was playing. Places where people were ordering their chicken in the middle of the, you know, and he's sitting there really playing his heart out and singing and like, and I would have to, when I visited him, this is when I would see this, you know, I would go, you know, divorced parents, you go visit your dad, and he'd have to go do these gigs, and so I'd sit at a restaurant drinking Shirley Temples and watching my dad basically just eat shit. There was something really uncomfortable and even sad about it. Like, it's sad to me because I was like, my dad's up there. These people are barely paying attention, and I'm here to watch my dad play.
Was it sad for him at all, do you think?
Well, I mean, that's kind of what my point is. I feel like in the moment it wasn't. And in the moment he was, I mean, maybe a little frustrating on occasion, but in the moment, he'd close his eyes and he'd play piano and he'd like pull a melodica up and do like a solo and he'd be singing And I knew that he was happy in that moment, and I watched him do this over and over. And it always hurt my heart a little bit because I was, it's my dad and he's singing, and I want everybody to pay attention or whatever. But he needed it. He needed to do it, and it made him happy. And doing that and being able to sit at a piano was something that it didn't matter that it wasn't a career. It didn't matter that it wasn't like, it wasn't about accolades, or it wasn't really even. It was just that it was something he really needed. And I always held that with me because I was like, hey man, if you can be happy just doing music, like it's a really good, if you can find that, if you can really find being happy just doing music, then whatever happens with your career. You know what I mean? Like whatever may happen. Yeah. It would suck to if a career didn't exist, to all of a sudden if the music didn't exist, So, and that ties back to the apocalypse thing, because I'm like, well, after the apocalypse, Mike will probably be like a warlord.
That's what I'm shooting for.
Yeah.
Or just to upload my brain into a computer and
I'm
rule.
talking like society's crumbled. There's no more computers. It's just like Mad Max.
No electricity. Yeah, I'm the leader of a tribe. Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So, and I'm just like, well, I always think about like, well, what are my talents in a post-apocalyptic landscape? You know what I mean?
Beatboxing.
Right, like it's like a court gesture type of thing. Like it's not going to be muscle, you know what I mean? Like maybe it'll be brains, but probably not. You know what I mean? Like it's probably that's probably a delusion on my behalf. And so I'm like, damn, I better pick up the instruments again quick because shit is progressing. Like I need to get back on these piano lessons because we might not be able to plug in the fucking drum machine. I guess that's what I'm saying, Rick.
You the shit, bro.
Yeah.
What records did your dad listen to?
He was a big Fats Waller fan. That was his shit. He was a jazz head, but he listened to a lot of shit, man. I discovered black music through my father. My father was a jazz man, and all those records are all that vinyl and everything. He would let me go through them, listen, put them on the turntable, listen to it. I kind of had my free reign over that, which is kind of amazing because record collectors they'll just smack you away. But my dad was cool about it as long as I didn't fuck it up. And a lot of the first jams I ever sampled or anything, when I finally got my hands on a sampler, were from his record collection, straight up. The first thing I ever sampled and looped up was you remember Mr. Brown? Remember Bob Marley, Mr. Brown from pre Wailers, right? But that was it.
Beyond the digging for samples, do you think that hearing jazz at the age that you heard it informed the way you approach music at all?
I'm sure it did. I can only assume so. I couldn't pin it down. No, I couldn't tell you exactly what that was, except to say that I just had an inherited appreciation for pretty really good music. You know what I mean? I just feel lucky. I'm sure that some right now there's some child who's being exposed by to the worst music possible by their parents. I feel like that's luck of the draw.
100%.
But I eventually did a jazz album. I don't know if you know that.
No,
I did a jazz album in 2014. It was the first time and last time I'd ever done it. Which is not to say I wouldn't do it again, but these people stepped to me to do it. They were trying to mix things up and this guy Matthew Shipp and it was William Parker and Matthew Shipp and a bunch of sort of free jazz, sort of titans. And I don't think it was even. I did not have the skill set to produce a jazz album, but they were like, no, we just want your version.
Yeah.
And so that was, and it was terrifying. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But I was like, all right.
Do you like the way it came out?
There's moments on it, man. I got my father on it.
Beautiful.
Yeah. There's moments on it for sure. And I think that there's they got some really, really seriously good reviews from high end jazz critic type shit that I was like, and then there were people. I mean, it was I think it was kind of under the radar, But for my career, it's something that if people have been following me, they know that I did this. And there's moments that are really cool. I didn't know exactly what to do, so I basically just went in and brought music and just told them to just basically improvise to my music.
That's truly a jazz spirit, though.
Yeah, I mean they're anarchists. You know, the like truly anarchists. Like all those guys are as learned and as capable of like form and like they're as the highest level musicians, but they rejected it years ago because they didn't think it was the true spirit of jazz. So they were like, no, we're gonna get in a room and we're gonna sort of spontaneously together create something, and we're gonna move off each other, and that's the free jazz movement. And so I was like, what do you do with a bunch of people who are already just kind of like no rules? And the only thing I could think of was give them rules. So I was like, all right, well, here are some standards. Like,
what was it like? Like, was it really cool getting your old man? Like,
yeah, well, I tricked him into it.
That's dope.
Did I tell you about it? I never told you about that?
I want you to tell the world. You've told me about it. I like the story.
I tricked my father into being on the record, basically, because I was like, listen, Dad, I'm doing this record. I have no idea what I'm doing. Can you do me a favor? Can you record just off cassette or whatever, you doing some cool standards, some jazz shit that you like, that you think would be cool? And he did, and one of the songs that he picked was this really depressing fucking song that basically it's called, I think, Yesterday, When the Moon Was Blue. Do you know that song? Mm-hmm. Hearing your essentially estranged father sing this song is probably one of the most, like, you know, emotional things you can do, and he you know, it's just all about regret. It's just,
do you have the version of him singing it by any chance?
It's a really good. You mean the original?
No,
your
dad's version.
My dad's version,
Yeah.
like the original before. So what I did was,
Yes.
I had him do it, and then I chopped it up, and then I had them play around it, and I made it. I don't know.
I'd be curious to hear the song.
Yeah, I'll play you the version that it ended up being.
Okay, let's do that.
Real G shit, man. That shit
Beautiful.
I'll spare you the.
And your dad's voice is great.
Yeah, it really is.
He brought the house down at my wedding, which is coming up on a year. But my dad fucking made everybody in the entire wedding cry. Wow. That's about 350 people. You remember?
I remember, but I remember the first conversation I had with your dad via going back and forth with email. He let me know how proud he was of you and of us and what it meant to him. And then the first time I met him, I knew he was funny, but I didn't realize how much of a ball breaker he was. I think we were in Boston or something. He was walking down the hall. I'm the only person in the dressing room. He's in front. Other people are behind him. And he said, "Oh, shit, nobody told me you were black." Oh, man, I almost died laughing.
That's
and then
so funny.
He capped the rest of the
Which
night.
of course was not true, but he was. Just,
No, I know. I totally know it was not
yeah,
true.
no, I mean, I'm just saying, like, he
Laugh
like,
line.
Yeah, like
doesn't
he
doesn't give a shit. Like,
I love that. I love
yeah,
that.
yeah.
And he also calls me son by proxy. So shouts out to the twice a year he hits me on the internet for some reason we did something cool, and he lets me know he's proud of his boy.
What was the music in your household growing up, Mike?
Well, I grew up, there's a level past divorced parents, and it's called My Grandparents Raised Me. So we just visited each of our parents on the weekends, you know. I have 5 sisters, 3 with my dad, 2 with my mom, the one with 2 of me and my mom. With my mom, we grew up in her parents' house. So her parents played blues and gospel, and that's what I grew up listening to. My grandmother wasn't a fan of the Def Jam records I was bringing in and the loudness of them and the rambunctiousness. So, and we were raised in a really Christian household, working class black people, pretty conservative, you know, in their values and stuff. Yeah. So, like at 6 o'clock on Fridays, you don't get to play bluesy music. Well, on Saturdays, blues music stopped. What
secular music ends?
It was called blues music. So any secular music ended. So it was gospel, you know what I'm saying, after that. So I'd have to sneak and listen to rap. But I grew up like really loving Buddy Guy, really loving B.B. King, Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf, because this is what I played, you know, it was played. My grandmother played, like she was a huge B.B. King fan. You know, she was probably how my daughter looks at Chris Brown. She loved B.B. My grandfather loved Buddy Guy, and that's how I got into like the Chicago style stuff. So, and gospel, lots of gospel, because we went to these small Pentecostal churches, and the music was great. So I loved that part of church. Hated going to church.
The rest of it, not
so
much.
You know what I mean? Like, not that I hated church, it's just you're a kid. You know, you're 10.
You want to be running around.
Yeah, your friends are on bikes.
And you had you in suits?
Yeah, oh man, suited up.
Yeah.
And then Pentecostal churches, women will wear all white and stuff. So it's really, and it's long. So it's 4 to 6 hours.
Wow.
In church.
How much of that's music? How much is music?
But exactly,
for 1
2.5,
second,
3
I thought
hours.
you said 46 hours.
No, it could be like 4 to 6 hours. Like you go to church at 10 in the morning, you might not come home to say 2, 4 o'clock. You know what I'm saying? But in that, there's so much music throughout the church
It has to be
that you
that
love
much.
it. Yeah, that you end up loving the experience once I get there. Even though I was resistant, there were just all these incredible musicians. And when you're holiness of Pentecostal, there are families that preach and that kind of go around doing revivals. That's what they do. So all these talented musicians will just kind of come through. So gospel music, Shirley Caesar, James Cleveland, of course, Mahalia Jackson.
Shirley Caesar's incredible.
Still.
Yeah.
Like still killing
Unbelievable.
crazy. Aretha, we could listen to by technicality because she was gospel, and Al Green was big. And my mom was 16 when she had me. My mom married. I have two dads. I have a non-bio and a bio dad. So my mom married my dad, my non-bio dad, I think at about 19 years old maybe. So I was about 3, maybe going on 4. And when she left, she left to take me, and my grandmother was like, nah, y'all go off and be married and learn how to be married and, make more children. And so I stayed with my grandmother. My mom left me a huge record collection. Curtis Mayfield, Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, just like a lot of stack stuff. So when my grandmother would shut the music down in the house, meaning, you could play music. You couldn't play the radio in the main room.
Yes.
I couldn't bump Run and Darryl, you know what I'm saying? So I had to go to my room, and my mom left me like what they would call component sets. You put the wax on, and I listened to like all the soul and all the funk. And then my dad, my non-bio dad, who she married, was a huge Parliament fan, P-Funk, and he was one of the best human beings in the world. I tell people all the time, like, man, his capacity to love a kid biologically, it's not his kid, but I fucked up his toy car collection. I scratched records trying to be a DJ, and he was like his basically his kind of like you. He was always just on some chill shit. Like, I can remember playing 2 Live Crew back to back to back. And finally he came in and took the tape. He just took the tape. He said, I'm only taking this because you keep rewinding the same part. And he just walked out.
And 2 Live Crew had that bass too.
Yes, man.
They were like,
so
invented it.
He encouraged my music. And I didn't realize until a couple years ago, I probably got my aesthetic from rock and roll from my biological dad, who was just like introduced me to rock, encouraged me to listen to Metallica, was not surprised that I loved Zeppelin and Sabbath and stuff. The Eagles was big, Pink Floyd. He introduced me to, he liked Bon Jovi. I never did so much. Not that I didn't like him, he was really into him. It was dad rock to me.
I had a different rock entry. It was my older sister was mostly.
Yeah.
She was a straight teen in the 70s.
Oh, she was chilling.
So, but for me it was like young. It was like the Clash. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was like Devo. Ultimately the Police.
Yeah.
That
was my bio dad. He was like he really let me be free, and I realized later
Gang of Four, shit like that.
He talks in rhyme. So I probably picked up my ability to put words together easily from him.
Wow.
Like if you ask him, like, they call him Big Mike. Of course, he's the oldest. I'm Nuck in my family. My daughter's Mikey. But they'll be like, Big Mike, how you doing, man? I'm pretty fat for a square, we got somewhere. And it'll just be like, I got somewhere to be. I'm going to get there for 3. It just effortlessly pours out of him. And I realize as I get older, just hanging with my dad, I probably just kind of picked up a knack for it.
So cool.
So, my parents.
And this was pre-hip hop, no?
Yeah. You got to think about it. I'm like, this is 78, 79. Hip hop was still something that was my parents then.
Yes.
Like, so when you hear Grandmaster Flash, Furious 5, Curtis Blow, I remember him coming to the Omni, performing for the Hawks, even Houdini, all that was my parents' hype. You know what I'm saying? Like, to me, it was music that I liked. You know what I'm saying? Like, my mom, I knew, like, I loved Donna Summer because she liked Donna Summer, right? Big disco. My mom's a free artist, partier. But she'd play like the Furious 5, and she'd play Grandmaster Flash, Furious 5, she'd play Curtis. I'm like, I like this. It's different from your regular music, but it's still your music. They were still wearing dress shoes, like silk shirts, and everything pivoted to me with Run and J. When those black,
same,
and when it hit, it was just like, oh, this is not my mother's.
It was over.
This is
Fat Boys.
Yeah, like exactly. And it was like Fat Boys running them. It was just like, no, this is not the same. Even though I still love the other acts and stuff, if this felt like mine.
We kind of have the spirit and model ourselves after Run-DMC in a real way. Like,
Absolutely.
and I mean, we're literally in all black denim on stage. Like, two MCs and a DJ. Like, we believe because of Run-DMC that you can rock a fucking stadium with 2 rappers and a DJ. You don't need a fucking band, and maybe you can rock it better than a band ever could if you get it right.
Absolutely.
If you're a Titan. But I remember just seeing first, of course, the music, but also just seeing Run-DMC and being like, they're clearly they're clearly cooler than most people that you see. They're better dressed than most people, but it's still better dressed normal shit.
Yes.
And it's like, I was like, it made you feel like you could be a part of Run-DMC. It made you feel like if you tried, you might actually, you could probably do that. Like, I could probably put on that hat and wear that cool jean jacket and those sneakers. I like, I like Adidas.
The way they ended up, I actually just talked to DMC recently in an interview like this. And
he's so amazing.
He's great. And he was telling me the way that they ended up dressing like that was because that's the way Jam Master Jay dressed in real life.
Yeah,
I heard
and they saw him, and it's like, he's the coolest guy we know. Let's just dress like him.
It infected us too, you know what I mean? And this many years later, and like, but it's always something that I keep with me because I feel like that's how I want people who listen to our music to feel. I want them to feel not like that they are gazing at something untouchable, that they're here are 2 guys telling you about them, their lives that you couldn't possibly imagine being a part of. I like the fact that kids can, I hope that kids can kind of feel like, man, we could be Run the Jewels, you know what I mean? Like, these guys aren't flashy, like these guys they're not above us, so I don't know, that always stuck with me, and that just got me into it. That was what got me into thinking I could be a rapper, like, oh shit, maybe I can be a rapper. I mean, I was rapping at 10, so.
This is me after I've drug a pair of Adidas shell toes without the laces.
That's you? Let me
in
see
like
the whole
4th
picture.
grade.
That's an amazing.
That's so incredible.
On field day with my dad got his picture.
No
we did field day.
shoelaces.
No shoelaces. Now, as a child, you're not thinking, maybe I should
walk. Yeah. I might have to be able to walk. Yeah.
That's interesting too, the way like certain ideas like no shoelaces or changing the way you wear a hat is enough to signal I'm part of a different tribe.
Sure.
Absolutely.
I'm different than you.
Absolutely.
Especially when you're a teenager. Especially when you're a young teenager, and you're trying to figure out how you dress and what it's about. If you have something, if you have something that you associate with really strongly, like music, then that is usually the first driving factor of how everyone dressed. Like, the rock kids dress like rock kids, and the rap kids kind of started to try and dress like rap kids, But then in Brooklyn at the time, it was also like, Run-DMC was like the goal. Like when you're a kid, Run-DMC was like, that's just who I want to be in 20 years. Because, they just seemed like adults, you know what I mean? Like, that's who I want to be someday. And Beastie Boys looked like dudes I knew, you know what I mean? Like Beastie Boys looked like just the t-shirts different and the like the casual, even kind of like not give a fuck, like vibe, like that was an easier thing to kind of start accomplishing when you were like a young teenager. Like, yeah, I could wear a t-shirt and a hat. That's easy.
Beastie Boys for me was one of the most incredible things I'd encountered in my life, because I tell people, like, growing up in Atlanta as a black kid, I can understand from my experience perspective what it must be like growing up a white kid in Colorado or Montana, Dakota. Like, it's not that I didn't like white people or wasn't open to them. I didn't know any.
Yeah.
Like, growing up in Atlanta, I just didn't know anyone. Our mayor was black, our police chief was black, and white people from the Southern perspective had only been presented to us, as people outside of our city, people, to kind of be wary of. Not the ones your grandparents or parents knew or worked with. Like, the gay white guy Chuck my mom worked with, loved Chuck, is like uncle to me. The people my grandma worked for, loved them, but I was always taught outside of Atlanta, watch yourself, it's dangerous, stay in the strict according to police. So there was a certain, not fear, but caution.
Yeah.
And I remember going to my aunt's house, my grandmother's sister, and she would do kind of like, you do backyard parties, or her house was like, it was a front yard party. Everybody was there, you know what I mean, all the time. And my cousins, who are older than me, I'm elementary school, playing this music, and it was insane. I'm like, oh shit, you gotta fight for your right. And man, Paul Revere, like I'm going crazy. You gotta understand, as a kid, I'm probably just learning.
Like 6th grade for us?
Yeah, it was like 6th grade.
Yeah.
It was like 6th grade. So you just really learning about Paul Revere on a certain level, past the mythology of it, well, this is what actually happened. I'm just like, man, this shit a song. And I'm tripping because the rapping, the beats, the swag, everything is so dope. And then I look at the cover, and the cover reminds me of a rock cover. Now I'm just like confused in a good way, but this is the most perplexing thing I'm seeing, because I'm one of the few kids in the neighborhood that actually listens to rock, who knows the difference in the colors and so on. So I'm just like, the cover's rap. I'm just like, what the fuck? And then this older kid is like, they white. And I'm like, get the fuck out of here. When I found out they were white, it really helped me see past my perspective. Because my perspective, again, wasn't one of hate or fear. It was just, I just didn't know them. Yes. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Because that was when white flight was happening too. So when my mother moved to the suburbs, we had white neighbors for 2 months, and then they were just gone, never to be seen again. Never saw my 2 friends again who were the sons. But the Beastie Boys records let me know that this shit was for all of us. And it was almost like subtly a lesson in class, because kids had chosen to carve out this class that was theirs. Yes. And you would have to also see hip hop shows at punk rock venues. So like the Metroplex in Atlanta, yes, they do hip hop first half of the night, or punk first half of the hip hop, they flip flop. But the only way you got to see, so I'm a young kid, but I have the unique ability to talk my older cousins into dumb shit. So I talked my cousins into sneaking me into places, let me just hang around, and I got a chance to be around these places and see that kids are just the same. They dress different, they like culture, different rhythms of music, but there's a point where as a kid you define who you are in your culture, and that's what the Beastie Boys confirmed for me, that it wasn't that you didn't just have to look like me. And that was a very important lesson for me.
Beautiful.
That's dope. That's dope.
What was the first homegrown hip hop that you heard in Atlanta?
Oh, Mojo. Mojo was the first one. Mojo was the first one, 82, 83. Yeah. I think Mojo works for the city or something now, and people still show him love. But Mojo, again, was like my mother's style stuff. Yeah. You know what I mean? The shit that hit later was still more mother's style stuff, was Raheem the Dream. DJ Tumples was someone else. So then you get Roger.
So funny, Dream. I don't know any of these.
No, I got you coming though.
Yeah.
Then you got Shadi, who was a kid who was from Queens or the Bronx. I think Shadi might have been from the Bronx. Moved down south. He was on Luke Records.
Shy-D?
Shy, yeah, S-H-Y.
Yeah, okay, I remember him.
Shy, exactly. So DJ Toomp, who later discovered a guy named T.I. and created trap music, was his DJ. So Toomp was like 15, 16 years old, right? After that, you got a guy named Sammy Sam, who has a record called Zone 3. That's an amazing, it's like Schoolie D's, right? It's hardcore. Who officially gave us that sound, of course, was Outkast. Yeah. But Sammy Sam, Kilo, Success and Effect, the Hard Boys, who does not get enough credit. I want to play this. And this is Ghetto Mafia. And I can say Ghetto Mafia they were post Outkast or right after them, but they had a record called Straight from the Deck that I still think is just one of the greatest rap records in the world. So that's Atlanta, man. We've been having fun a long time, making dope shit out there.
Atlanta's run shit.
You know what I love about Atlanta though? It doesn't run shit in the way that it's been ran before. It doesn't throw its tail around. The old Southern saying, throwing its tail around like he's the biggest dog in the yard. It kills itself every 2-3 years and reinvents itself. Like if you look at the last 20 years. It just means you
have a progressive music scene, no matter what. On all levels, it's progressive. From dudes like Outkast to
even
to
the street shit.
Trap
you get crunk music,
yeah,
which goes into rock music, which goes into the rock star, which goes into the snap movement. Shawty Low does not get his proper credit. Not only was he a rapper, he was the person as a drug kingpin that underwrote a genre of music. That whole snap and pop shit, like he underwrote those groups, much like Gucci does now. Gucci deserves credit not only as a rapper but just as like a mogul. He really is propelled a lot of careers, man. You know, so.
I remember when I first heard Crunk, it blew my mind. I loved it.
Crunk music, yeah, it was so
loved it.
Oh man, Lil Jon's a genius.
Mike is a part of one of the seminal Crunk hits.
Never
Really, which one?
I ain't never scared.
Wow.
I ain't never scared. Wow.
Bone Crusher,
You play
me,
that
him,
to
and
this
T.I.
day.
Yeah.
Mike could literally go drop that beat. I used to watch your shows and be like, damn, this
That
record is...
record.
And that was like one of the records I was jealous of and shit. Like, yeah, no. I ain't never scared. Although we rocked it a couple times together.
I really enjoyed getting past that moment. Not like I don't love it, but like as a musician, that was always one of my markers. Like, can I get enough records that I don't have to perform? You know what I'm saying?
Dude, you know how you always have records you just pray you don't have to perform anymore after a while?
I'm not mad at it, but I was just like,
no, but eventually you just want to move on. Like, you're just like, it's every cycle of my career, I've been able to shed a couple that, like, I mean, here's the thing. We're super lucky to be in that position that people consider jams from different phases of our career to be important to us. But like, I've never liked looking back. Because it's always felt like a waste of time to me. It was always like, I was always desperately looking for the next idea. So there does come a point where you have to reconcile with that. Like you have to become okay with even your musical output from your past. You know, like you have to make friends with it again. You know, because it is a party. It's the same. It's like the same way. It's like the same thing I'm learning about what therapy is. In other words, reconciling with who you were so that you can understand who you are now, being cool with it, knowing that that was what just happened. It wasn't that, you know, like a real obsession guy like myself when it comes to music couldn't go back and listen to one of my records and hear 1,000 things that I wished I had done.
I do the same. Yeah, I think everybody, I argued with Scarface for an hour. First about like he had, like, I couldn't believe he's unsatisfied with his music. That's also the sign of why Scarface has a 32-year career and no whack albums, and style seems to be constantly progressing because
I believe in it, man. I mean, here we are, and we're 44.
Yeah, and we still, like, we're here tweaking too. Like, I literally for a month just like, I hate that verse. Came back and tweaked 2 bars and loved that verse because it wasn't about the verse. It was about those bars weren't right.
Isn't it amazing how sometimes small details change your opinion of a whole thing?
Everything.
And also how delicate when you do catch something and then you try to improve upon it, how delicate that balance is, and sometimes you don't even know. You breathe on it wrong and it goes away.
And you know, anyone who's been who makes records knows that despite the fact sometimes that you might be able to get a technically better version of something that you did, half the time, if not more, you just don't want to trade it for what the original, even if there was something that you fucked up. I said a word wrong, but the rest of it is so, I can't, I'm just going to have to let it be what it is.
Like, did Kurt really mean to say a mosquito, my libido?
I think so. But I'll tell you, Dizzy Gillespie plays the sax. It was one of the greatest hip-hop lines of all time because immediately it wasn't true.
Yeah.
It was just immediately not true. It's your first line.
But it was fly as fuck. It doesn't even matter.
Even as a kid, and because I knew who Dizzy Gillespie was.
There's one on our new record, and it sounded so good, I didn't give a fuck to correct it.
What was it?
Nah, I can't tell you.
Whisper it to me.
It's an Outkast reference. It named the members of Outkast, and it expanded.
He.
But it's dope, and I do not want to change because it's so dope.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah, no wonder, because it's dope.
Funny, but Dizzy Gillespie plays the sax. There's nothing more honest than saying that because it's just completely a lie. It just has nothing to do with anything. It's like no truth, and yet you're just. And everybody who heard it was like, "This, yep." He does.
It's swag.
Because you just said that shit so cool.
Swag, man. Swag.
So fuck it. Dizzy Gillespie plays the sax.
Say that shit with confidence. That's what I learned watching Run.
You've managed to straddle a boundary between talking about serious stuff, talking about political stuff, and also talking about gangster shit and crazy hip hop lyrics.
Yeah.
How does it feel to dance between the seriousness of the message and the fun of hip hop and love of hip hop?
Man, it's one of the most liberating things to be allowed to do because I love my Public Enemy. I love my NWA in those extremes, and I love Biz Markie.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And to be able to have a style that's gangster rap centered and based, heavily revolutionary rap influenced by way of PE and Pac, and morality based in terms of Southern lyricists, like in terms of faith. Being able to be that hybrid, it's been an honor for me, because most people, you get accepted as the character you portray, or the part of the ego you personify. And my man Cuz Lightyear, shouts out to Cuz Lightyear in the back there, but Cuz says, man, he's like, he never lets me forget. He's like, hey, you know, you lucky, Cuz, because you get to be you. He say, really, people just, so this, what I am on record is really me. And that's not saying, you know, I'm going out to fucking fight with 100 cops tomorrow, but like, I am rebellious by nature. I'm also a fucking total jokester and shit talker, and if we sat in this room long enough and I'm bored, I'm going to pick up a book and just read until I go to sleep. You know, so I get to be the kid I actually was. Like, it was weird for me growing up being a kid, understanding the economics of, I want to go to the dance, I don't have sneakers, Sleepy knows how to make fake drugs, I can go sell them in my uncle's neighborhood. And doing that to get the new Nikes and the fake gold chain for the dance, knowing how to do that, but still literally loving art. Like, to the point I go to the museums and literally loving rap music and so getting the chance to be that on record, for me, I appreciate the fans for allowing me to, because I think most human beings are that complex, and we don't allow ourselves to be publicly. We present whoever we want the public to think we are, interpret us as, and we do not show our total, or willing to show, or allowed to do it.
I think that also for us, me and Mike, there are only a few advantages to being in your 40s and in the current music lane, you know, as a rapper. And you know, we don't talk about it that much, and age isn't a big deal, but what it is a collection of experiences, and we're at a point, I think, when we're with our records and where we are in our heads when we met up, we had the same perspective, which is we don't want to do records where we don't have the room to make jokes, or we don't have the room to cry, or we don't have the we don't want to present ourselves, and we just, neither of us ever really did, where we chose an idea and decided to make that one idea exactly everything that we're supposed to do. Because if you really have to be careful, man, when you're coming into this shit. If you're doing that, if you are choosing a thing, just a thing, and you're not punching out the walls, like by definition, with the variety of the different things that you can do when you present yourself to people, you are in very much danger of being a victim of the own thing that you created. The thing that you presented can come back to destroy you, because if you're an artist, you're going to want to say other things.
Evolve.
You are, absolutely. Yes. And that's literally what we do. I mean, in terms of, as you know, on some human shit, like that's the art thing. I think that's the modus operandi for an artist is to be paying attention. And you want to make an artist, or you know, someone who loves art, is trying to make art, who expresses themselves that way. You want to kill their spirit. Just tell them that they can't change.
Yeah.
Tell them they can't change. And so it's a delicate balance between knowing what's awesome about what you do and what people connected with,
yes,
but also having no shame about being able to just make like a really stupid joke, yeah, and then say something,
and feeling
really
good about it,
and feeling great about it,
yeah,
and seeing literally absolutely no conflict about doing then something really poignant that actually does have meaning. And the two are completely related. Why? Because that's us, man. Yeah. We're serious. We have real concerns and real thoughts and discussions, even in relation to our music. But we're also like, you know, but comedy and sort of a joyous perspective is just as much of a joy for us in what we do. And so I'm so psyched that I get to be in a situation where it's cool. It's like, it's cool. There's no expectation other than to do it to make it sound great, to do it so that it's real, so it connects, and that, you know, and so. And it's terrifying to me to think that anyone would like stop us or wouldn't, you know, like there wasn't the room. No one's stopping you, of course. Yeah. You know, it's a fear. It's not about the world's out to get you. but it's something that I'm really happy about. That like when I listen to me and Mike's music, I'm like, I like this because these are people. These are not. Yeah. This is not an idea. It's not propaganda.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's one of the things that I see as a limitation for certain artists who are very single focused in one place. After they've made a couple of albums like that, it's like, what's left to do?
Like, you nailed that.
Yeah, it's like we've done
you
that.
Nailed it.
It's like now what? Like, why is it interesting to talk about the same subject again for 10 more songs? I don't know. It's not. You know what I'm saying? It's like there has to be. You have to at least be looking at it, even if it's related to the same ideas from different perspectives.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
All around, finding what's interesting about it now that wasn't there before when you wrote a song about a similar topic.
I remember the song. Wish I was a little bit taller. Wish I was a ball. Wish I had I would call that record was so honest to me at a time where
everything hit at the right time.
Everything had been so hard and hardcore that it was the perfect. You know, there's insecurities with being a teenage boy. You know what I mean? There's insecurities with being a man. Period. And that song did it, and not in a whiny or what we would be considered hip hop a sucker way. Like it was just, it was very honest. Like that's dope to me, because if you look at what rules in rap now, it's the world to that perspective. Like I look at the top guys now. The top guys have a sensitivity that just wasn't allowed when I was that age. You know what I'm saying? And that's a dope thing. Now we express it in a different way. Like we're giving a sensitivity, and then next we might be shooting a dog on a porch, just to make an old lady cry. And the
because of the ridiculousness of it. Like we're half real. There's a half of a really human element to what we do that we really aren't afraid to tap into that. But the other half is the Blues Brothers fucking stumbling their way across America and getting into gunfights, and they're like, and why? Just because this shit is fun to us. It's funny.
That's what friends do.
So and I love that. I love like the relinquishing of self-seriousness. I think that you're doomed if you're coming into art thinking that you need to take yourself seriously all the time. Like that's a fucking trap. Like that's, like if you can't just point at yourself and even saying something that you don't believe, saying something hilarious that
it's a good line.
If it and not in the sense of but just being the ass, like letting yourself for the sake of comedy be a complete fucking asshole.
Of course.
Like that's definitely in our wheelhouse. Like the more assholish the better. Like we sit around and we just like what's the fucking
the Danny Brown verse.
The
Three Tears, but that verse, that record.
Right.
That my verse was all about. It was somebody I had watched on some fucking shit that was just shitting on black rappers and athletes, and I'm just like, God damn, like you expect this from Fox News, you expect it from the concern. Like, you look like my fucking aunt and uncle. Like, how you shitting on me? And that's where that verse just came directly out of, you know what, man? Fuck y'all. Fuck this shit. This ain't Killer Mike the Activist. This is Michael. Fuck you, Render. And
yeah.
And it is absolutely ridiculous. That record is an amazing record too, Danny and Peg was it? You had brought him in yesterday.
Yeah.
JPEG. Yeah, brought JPEG in and kick it with us. Man, the beat was
very original beat maker.
Yo, it was
very original.
It was wild as fuck to figure out that ride.
Yeah.
I like figuring out. Part of the reason I think I proclaim LP greatest rapper producer in one thing ever, because I see him write them motherfucking raps, and I see him develop these beats into something, but a lot of times the beats ain't an easy ride. Now the ride is dope and it's there, but we have to find it.
Yes.
And you've seen this at this point. You come back maybe 3 different, like, God damn, that ain't it. We got something about it I don't like. But that beat challenged me to find a ride that I loved. I came out of that motherfucker feeling like a better rapper. Like,
that's a Yoko Ono.
I think you told me that.
Sample.
Shit is
it's the beauty of the challenge when it forces you to go outside of your normal patterns.
Yes.
You become
That's why
better.
Hey, and there's only an elite group of motherfuckers that can actually write. That like can find the pocket.
I want to tell kids too, man. Shit. Fuck music reviewers and who wrote what. Listen to the song yourself.
That's it.
And see what you think.
Yeah.
I saw a review of this record. It's not our record. I don't particularly. Besides thinking I got a dope verse, I don't have much skin in the game. But I saw a review give a lazy review on it, like, and I went to rap lyrics or rap quote or whatever, and I realized he had literally just read the lyrics, maybe listened to the song once, and only highlighted really what was in the bars. I was just like, how lazy. And like what tripped me out about that punk ass reviewer is he failed to acknowledge Danny's Mr. Servon shout out, which in the No Limit spectrum, if you really was a No Limit guy, that's like, to me, that's that rap nerd shit. Yeah. I'm coming to you, listening to you, because I trust your punk ass. Yeah. And you not even rap nerd enough to know Mr. Servon. And then, from a street perspective, the most honest thing said on that record was when Danny said he had to act like a fiend to get out of getting arrested. I'm just like, this nigga's a genius. You know what I'm saying? And that's what you lose when L hit the fucking triple Lindsay flip reference to dad and the mom. It's just like, how the fuck can you listen to that shit and not be like, oh man, my fucking mind's blown? You know what I mean? And then
and the flows are so interesting over the beat.
Absolutely.
It's jazz.
Exactly.
It is jazz.
Exactly. It's freestyle.
That was what the beat did. The beat made us find a pocket, and everyone found a different pocket. Man. It's 3 different styles.
With each verse, you hear the beat in a whole different way.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And that's to me, that's what's lost in the now of. Like, man, it was so new. And not on some super nostalgic, it was all better than. It was just so new that it was fleeting. You didn't know if it'd be around much longer.
Yes.
So you took all of it serious.
Facts.
Like, not to the point of, all right, check it, just to like, yo, let
listen.
me learn this shit. Let me learn, because I don't know how, like, I remember, and I know you know, Rick, they said, this shit's not going to be around for 4 years.
Oh, my God, man.
How many years did
I, just making music, how many years did I have to get the same lecture from people, from old people, telling me every fucking time anyone found out that I was doing this shit through my youth, you had to endure the lecture. Yep. And that was that some guy who knew, some older dude who just knew that it was just a waste of time. Oh, trust me, kid.
Flash in the
it's
pan.
disco. Yep. It's disco. Pick up a guitar. Pick up a guitar. It's disco. I saw it. Yeah. I lived through it. You know what I mean? And you're just like, no. We even knew then. We were like, you're wrong. You're wrong. It's a new form of fucking music.
I remember being told it wasn't even music because we talked.
Of course. They still say that shit.
Just like, God
They still try and say that shit.
Yeah, now, it's...
And disco's not even gone for that matter. Nah. It's like disco's everywhere.
Again,
right.
How the fuck you not saying some Donna Summer on a Sunday smoking with your wife, man? You know?
Disco took a hit because of a racist campaign, essentially. That's what happened. That's what that disco sucked. You ever see like you ever really read about the disco sucks thing? It was all it was one radio DJ, and he just fucked it. But it's considered to be, it was a racist movement. It was basically a racist movement because disco was fucking made by black people, Spanish people. It was framed as a lifestyle that was offensive to the, to people who were different than that, and it's really interesting. I read a bunch about it in the last 5 years because I didn't know what that was about at the time. Yeah. We listened to disco in our house. We loved disco. Yeah. Donna Summer and fucking Giorgio Moroder, of course, who's like, you listen to that shit now and you're like, this is not just. Not only was it not a fad, it's part of the foundation of maybe the majority of modern electronic music.
Absolutely.
And it's so, even to this moment, innovative and cutting edge. Like, that shit is all up in me. Like, that type of shit, the synth work, like it totally blew my mind when I was a kid. Matching strings and synths and being like, this is not, there's no guitar, we're replacing that with a synth. Yeah. And it's nasty.
Yeah. Like, and the rhythm's gonna carry this more than anything.
And it's just a trance. It's a trance. And there's something like really, there's something that for a lot of those records was dangerous and sexy and interesting. My older sister, I was jealous of my older sister because she was right up in the Studio 54, era.
She got to go. Did she get to go?
She was 100. Wow. She's got stories about Rick James, trying to pick her up.
That's pretty cool.
She was like 16.
Don't go.
Yeah.
Don't
do it.
Don't go.
If I could just build a time machine. You know, no, she and she was underage. She was one of those wild, broken home family, wild New Yorker chicks. You know?
Rick James's type.
Exactly. She probably was doing cocaine too. Yo, my older sister was fucking wild, man. You know, my older sister was amazing. She's an amazing person, but she was wild as a kid. And I remember, I always have this. There's this story in our family about my older sister getting into beef with my mom because my mom didn't want her to wear it. She didn't want her to go to the train every day to school as this young girl wearing a pin that said "Sit on my face." That's how raw my sister was. Louisa. Shout out to Louisa. I love her very much. And she caught the brunt of a lot of the pain of the family and the way that it was broken up and everything. Like, you know, she's technically my half sister. She came in. When my mother married him, she was 9 or something. You know, so her mother had died. And then when my father left and made the decision that probably smart at the time, because I think he was wilding out and doing drugs and shit. And I think he made the decision that she was actually going to stay now with her stepmother and the new kids. Yeah. And that was damaging her in a way that I got to understand later. But because of that, she was very crazy. She was very wild, you know, but you know, she saw, you know, my family saw that. I feel like I was like one step away. We were one step away from that, you know.
It's amazing how all of those life experiences affect who the artist we become. You know, just through different experiences, siblings, parents,
even
listen
their
to, what they do.
You know?
It all trickles in one way or another.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. God, that's a nice breeze.
I was raised by my grandparents, so it was all inclusive. It was my grandparents telling my parents, like, we don't give a shit how y'all feel about each other. Everybody got to come because it's a fucking recital.
Yeah.
And we're old and we got to go too. You know what I mean? So at my daughter's graduation, it was like fucking 25, 30 people online taking this because it's, you know, we've never even been allowed to use the word half or step. Like, we don't, it's not even, when I think about it, just like I really appreciate my parents being teenagers, realizing we don't know what the fuck we're doing. We should just let these people, because now in my life, because I have children by different women, it really allows me to just fully, my house is my children's house. Our holidays are for us. Like, my wife didn't, at first, my wife was just like, man, it's a lot of people. Just like, well, you know, we from the country. Like, my people from Alabama, so yeah, it's like it might be 150 people in our house. Yes. You know, we won't do it next year. It'll just be 37. But you know, that I've always, I didn't realize how lucky until my sisters and I started going to school, and we went to school with a lot of foster kids. We went to school with a lot of people whose parents eventually got divorced and stuff. I don't understand how lucky we were that we were raised in an environment that it was all inclusive. So, you know, that's.
I think that's one of the reasons why I was so happy about the wedding, because it was like, it wasn't really like that for me as much, because in portions of my childhood I had a big family, but then it was very isolated. It became my mother and my sisters and me, and even though there would be occasions where you would see more people, so the chance then to kind of come all the way around and be the lightning rod that could get everybody, all those families together, really for the first time since decades and decades.
That's the cool thing about succeeding for me. Has been less about like the 9-year-old kid that wanted to be a rapper, like that wish got fulfilled. Less about the young man who started to understand money and I don't want to work for 30 years. Less than about any of that has been about the ability to be a conduit for unification of my family. Beautiful. Whether it's holidays or my niece and nephew working for me, or you know, my children being full brother and sisters, no matter if they have different mothers, because they're around each other. You know, if it's, I'm very blessed. Like my son's mother, my oldest son Malik's mother just landed with her daughter, who's not biologically mine, but I view her and treat her as though she's my daughter. They're in Los Angeles. We'll be leaving, you know, in a couple of days, but I'm going to make sure they're good before we fly out, because
Yes.
like she has essentially my child, whether
Yes.
it's my child biologically or not. Like
Yes.
you're my son's sister, you're my child, you know. So I got to make sure.
In
you're
addition to your localized family,
Yeah.
it's also your Run the Jewels family.
Absolutely,
It's
absolutely.
also the fans.
Absolutely.
It's like
Absolutely.
you're building wider and wider reverberations
Absolutely.
of people who are your people.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah,
beautiful.
And you get to and you get to when you find yourself in that position and you can bring those people together, you now as a man, unlike when you were a child, you now have an opportunity to curate the sentiment behind that gathering. You know what I mean? To influence it and to say this is the premise of how we're getting together. This is how we're going to look at this. It's going to be good. It's going to be that we love each other. You know.
Somebody still might get drunk and curse their cousin out, but you know that just kind of comes with it.
Makes it a good party.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yo, that meme, that classic meme. What is it? The old black guy gets up drunk and shit. He's like, "I hate fuck niggas, even though I have some fuck niggas in my family." I felt that shit in my core. Like, oh man, you're my fucking cousin. You ain't shit. I gotta lock my wife's purse in the fucking trunk, but I love you,
But I
cousin.
love
You
you,
helped me put
but
my
I
start
love
on.
you.
You know.
Well, I've taken you away from your real mission here,
Yeah.
which is finishing Run the Jewels 4.
Yeah.
And we haven't talked about it at all. But maybe what we'll do is we'll let you finish it, and
Yeah.
then when it's done, we
back.
listen to it together and talk about it and
I'm with it.
do this again.
Can we send shouts out to
do it.
two people?
Please.
Seth, who sends us cool sneakers, and I know people know Seth, but he got married, so congratulations to him.
Beautiful.
Because it's more than just dope sneakers. And Sam Hunt, who's our booking agent, just had a little boy.
he did.
And, you know,
Congratulations, Sam.
Congratulations to Sam. And,
Absolutely.
we love you too. And Christian Coffee, our tour manager. I shout him out because he put us before some of his other acts in his recent bio before he did it.
Yeah. After getting yelled at,
So, yeah.
we were like, "Yo, man, if you ever mention us second in an interview again, man."
Yeah, but we love him. And we love those other acts, but we're just territorial as shit. Nah, but those three guys, man, are again a part of that bigger family you talked about. So Seth, Sam, Christian, we love you guys. Thank you very much.
Cool. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, Rick.
Fun talking to you as always.
Love.
Absolutely. Let's definitely do the follow-up. That's
For
gonna be
sure,
an
where
interesting
it'll be
one.
real specific.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.